Welcome back. This is the AM show. It's time now for me to share with you my blunt thoughts for today. And I've titled them, A Tale of Two Cities, Ghana's Classist Society and the Vileness of Our Misleadership. Now, part of my title for today's blunt thoughts comes from Charles Dickens' November 26, 1859 work, A Tale of Two Cities, which my co-host Sweetie Abochi reminded me of just some days ago. In that work, Dickens writes in its introduction, pay attention. It was the best of times. It was the worst of times. It was the age of wisdom. It was the age of foolishness. It was the epoch of belief. It was the epoch of incredulity. It was the season of light. It was the season of darkness. It was the spring of hope. It was the winter of despair. We had everything before us. We had nothing before us. We were all going direct to heaven. We were all going direct the other way. In Ghana today, it is the best of times for the rich and the political class. It also is the worst of times for the poor and the ordinary masses. And that is what brings me to this right here behind me. The Right Honorable Aaron Michael Quay, former Speaker of Ghana's Parliament, who says, our forebearers brought this kind of thing. And Nkrumah, you could be detained almost indefinitely. Why? First of all, PDA allowed your detention of the 1958 law for 5 years. When it got to 1964, he amended it and said, after that, you could be given a renewal for another 5 years, almost indefinite. Next slide. Then he adds, nobody likes that today. Nevertheless, they see a hero in the man who perpetrated it against the people of Ghana. It's a contradiction. We must claim it, and we must know that if you love your freedom, you must love the MPP in Ghana today. Our people were developmental, selfless gentlemen, development-oriented, and they spoke about it all the time. Professor Michael Quay, if you are not listening, I hope someone will tell you. Nkrumah didn't become what he became overnight. He became what he became because of your forebears, political forebears. That's why he became what he became. Somewhat paranoid. But with everything that we've seen, for you to even suggest this, that because of the PDA and all of that, the MPP is the best thing since sliced bread when it comes to human rights. Where were you when students, law students, were hit with water cannon, pepper spray, lashed? Where were you? Were you in this jurisdiction? Were you in this jurisdiction in the last election when 8 lives were lost? Were you here? Let's go back down memory lane. January 2, 1964. President Kwame Nkrumah escaped another attempt on his life on that day. 5 shots were fired at him from close range. An official statement actually makes mention of the fact that the shooting had occurred while Mr. Nkrumah was walking towards his car outside his office. The assailant was arrested. The president was unhurt, but a security guard, and I'm talking about the Ametewe incident, was seriously wounded and died soon afterwards at the military hospital. Before this, there had been 4 previous attempts and others that would follow to kill the 54-year-old president at the time, all the way to 1957. In fact, if you go further, you would find that the first attempt on Nkrumah's life was made in early 1956. Guess who was doing that? Before Ghana became independent. A bomb exploded in his household, in Accra, while he was meeting several government ministers. No one was injured, thankfully. The August before that, he had been injured when a grenade was thrown at him on Ghana's northern frontier near the Upper Volta. People were wounded. Again, he escaped. God had a purpose for this man. The January before that, January the 9th, a bomb exploded amid a crowd cheering the president as he drove from a political rally in Accra. Yet you have all of these people who were behind these elements and their forebears who were planting these bombs in Kulungugu and other places, plotting assassination attempts like the shooting on January 2nd, 1964. They are the same people telling us today that they get offended because he became somewhat paranoid. If you do that to anybody, will the person not become paranoid? God forbid. But if anything like that had happened to any of our presidents in the Fourth Republic, how do you think they would have reacted? When we spew such things, sometimes you begin to wonder. Before these assassination attempts, one has to go and read the history and the bad blood shown by J.B. Danquah and some of the others. I'm not saying J.B. Danquah is a bad person, but vis-a-vis Nkrumah, they became bad persons eventually. What had Nkrumah been like before that bad blood? People should go and read that before they draw such, I don't want to use that word, conclusions. But let's go to the next slide. Next slide. Shall we go to the next slide? All right. Having spoken about that, and I'll come to this bit about an apology shortly. I'm going to wind very quickly. But you see, if you read the latest ISA report, the things people should be tackling rather than trying to down Nkrumah, it's useless. You will never win. Namibia, Tanzania, Burkina, everywhere you go, there's Nkrumah. You can't win that battle. You're wasting your time. However you try to, he's a seed. However you try to push him down, you're only planting him. He will grow up. Stop wasting your time. The things they should be dealing with. The latest ISA report, there should be fewer government agencies at the port to reduce revenue loss and corruption. One of the most corrupt places. They say paperless, what. Go there today and see. Regularly check if subsidies reach the right people. Audit all government procurement to ensure value for money. I keep saying, procurement in this country, if we are able to solve this one beast, we'll save billions of dollars. We'll never have any business going to the IMF. But because the corruption is there, and that is where people in government get their money, they will not deal with it. ISA is saying, deal with it. Stop talking about Nkrumah. Deal with your procurement issues. High exchange rates that have led to labor unrest, high business costs, closures, and relocation. Next slide. Then, the focus on debt repayment. Government should build up the existing sinking fund to ensure sufficient funds for repaying restructured domestic and international debts when they fall due. Now that we are not paying, right, our international debts, not meeting the requirements, eventually when they fall due, starting from around 2026, how are we going to cope? Are we thinking about that? Or is it just about another political season? And monto mame. From all the political sides, I'm tired of these politicians, these misleaders. When will you think of us? When? Next slide. Then you come to this whole bit about, oh, Monfan Teyeng. The same way you said, monto mame. Kweku Kwarteng recently came through talking about that Ponzi scheme economy we run. Kennedy Japan says what? Oh, yeah, apologize. We'll hear from Nyahunya Otamaklu what he has to say. Let's go to the next slide. Kweku Kwarteng, to break the 8, therefore, we must first break that norm by acknowledging the past and present failures of the political class to provide the kind of quality leadership required to avert the mess in which we find our country today. Next slide. Kennedy says, let's go out there with humility, something the MPP finds very difficult to demonstrate. I don't know what it is that it's as though our politicians become possessed when they get into power. I don't get it. Apologize to Ghanaians and admit your mistakes before you can convince anybody to vote for you. If we ignore the hardships Ghanaians are going through, underline, hardships Ghanaians are going through, they will never accept what we are saying. It's insightful. Pay attention. Don't ignore it. Then, Nyahunya Otamaklu says, the president, as Nkrumah used to do years ago, he should come out with a dawn broadcast, as Nkrumah did for all Ghanaians, to listen to his apology. Maybe that might turn the minds of the people. Let's go to the next one. And the final one. Then Finance Minister Dr. Amin Adam comes out to say, I would like to appeal to the people of this country to forgive us. It is never the intention of any government to impose hardships on its people. Yo, Yate. When you borrow without thinking, and I'm not necessarily referring to you, Dr. Amin Adam, because there was someone before you, Ken Oforiatta. When you borrow without thinking, especially when you borrow to line your own pockets at the expense of the taxpayer, when you had every intention of causing, then I can say that you had every intention of causing hardship to the Ghanaian. So listen, you can save your dubious apologies. Your apology means absolutely nothing, and here's why. What does your apology mean to those who have died on the back of medical issues and not being able to pay their bills? How about those who have committed suicide? Are we apologizing to them too? Will you apologize to those who are still alive but cannot pay for their medication? Are you apologizing to them too? Your government has squandered loads of money. Are you admitting that and apologizing for them, or are you going to continue blaming COVID-19 and Russia? Will your members of government, for example, maybe MPs, ministers, as a sign of goodwill, would you give up something as little as your ex gratia, for example, I'm tempting you. Yeah. Will you give it up? Oh, as a sign of goodwill, we're going to cede our ex gratia. Will you do that? You will not. Because you don't care about us. It's all about you. It's all about you. And that is why I feel so disgruntled when it comes to these matters, Ghana 4. Like Dr. Edu Ananayenchi, the convener of the Pensioner Bondholders Forum. He said, when you say these things, oh, I'm sorry you have the sore. Oh, I knocked your teeth out. I'm sorry. Does it replace the tooth? This new forgive us rhetoric proposed by Kennedy Japan and then the words of Dr. Amin Adam, it reminds me of that joke, and all respect to sensibilities of our brothers and sisters in the Northern Belt. But it is said that way back, a Southerner sang a song that had lyrics denigrating some people from the North. Then he went there for a music show. He failed to perform the song, but the people said, they were encouraging him to perform the song. And when he did not, they said, whether you sing it or not, we'll beat you up. I'm not proposing violence in any way. Get that clear. I'm merely saying you reap what you sow. To every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. That's Isaac Newton's third law of motion. You've ruined our economy while you live large. We see it. Yet you want us to forgive you. So you do what? Visit even worse penury and wickedness upon us? Like I said a few days ago, an apology is fine. I don't begrudge you for that. But if you are saying it merely because you want votes, forget it. Even worse, you hear the arrogance like that which we heard from the Attorney General recently. Oh, we are not trying to break the aid for any selfish reason. It's for the future of Ghana. Whose future? Which future? I feel, honestly, young people in this country, I feel sad for us. And how some of us have been compromised simply because we think ethnocentric, this way, that way, MDC, MPP. Look at what will serve you well. I get so peeved sometimes. But Ajobrel, I shall wrap it up here. I shall end it here. Let us think into the future and vote wisely in election 2024. My name is Benjamin Akakpo. These are my blunt thoughts shared with you, raw, hot, and edited, undiluted. God bless Ghana and make her great and strong.